what is moral courage?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So, actually, before I answer that question, I'll tell you what
Yeah.
moral courage means to us. Like, what would you, how would you define moral courage?
So the thing I always tell people is that it's doing the right thing in the face of adversity. Like
Mm-hmm.
having just spending time with a little bit of time with Irshad and watching some of the content, and even working on some of the content. Um, I recognize that for some people, doing the right thing in the face of adversity, it actually doesn't sum up the totality of it. But moral courage, this method is it really is about learning to disagree without shaming the other party.
Right.
Having the courage of your conviction enough to accept somebody who completely disagrees with you, who's completely on the opposite side of the aisle or the issue or whatever, without shaming them and making them feel less. That's why I say doing the right thing in the face of adversity.
Yeah, and I think that there is all of that, but also here's I think the dictionary definition of moral courage, if you will,
Yeah.
speaking truth to power. But
Mm,
what we've kind of found is, first of all, well, whose truth? And when
mm,
we're talking about power, we're talking about power like, the ideas of what power in the system, power in institutions, power outside of us. So what
right.
we really come to find is speaking truth to power also means speaking truth to your own ego.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's really important. And that really is the first step to speaking truth to power. That's how we approach it, is because the ego, man, the ego is a really interesting little beast. I mean, it can be your best friend when you've got, a tiger running after
Yeah.
you. But here's the problem with the ego: the ego has not evolved to differentiate between mortal danger
Mm,
and
wow.
mere discomfort.
Okay.
And so you add in the fact now that we are more discomfort. We face discomfort probably a little bit more often because we're more connected.
Mm,
You add social media, and so it's not there's more opportunities to connect, and so there's more opportunities to be uncomfortable.
yeah.
And what we do when the ego is uncomfortable, when it faces challenges, when it faces questions that it doesn't like, it gets into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, much like it would if you were in mortal danger. And so
Wow.
that has been creating a lot, that's been a part of some of the polarization that we've seen. And so taming our own ego and speaking truth to our ego, which means that we need to hear and not fear different viewpoints, is
Right.
really the essence of what we're trying to do with moral courage. Is we're teaching our kids, and this is so important. This is so important for our kids, because right now the way that we have been doing teaching kids a lot of times puts them in boxes. It labels
Yeah.
them, right? And it labels them from demographic labels: black, white, brown, political labels: red, blue. And
Mm,
it really doesn't see the person as the individual. It doesn't accept the complexity and the nuance. And so we automatically, when we label, we take away this beauty of diversity. And diversity has a way to actually unify us by
yeah.
telling stories and by like listening to our different views. I mean, even within our boxes, if you will, we're all diverse. I mean, I'm not the same as the woman sitting next to me or the white person sitting next to me, or and
Right.
so it really allows a true and honest diversity to come through. And that honest diversity includes listening and hearing and not fearing. And that's where I feel like it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Moral courage
Yeah.
is a game changer in that way.
Yeah, and I think it helps you focus on. I feel like I've been talking about this all day, but it helps you focus on the individual dignity of every person around
Mm-hmm.
you, no matter what they look like, say, believe, think, do. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love the way that you broke that down, and I thank you for that. Um, so we're talking about this EdTech Expo.
Yeah.
So why is moral courage? Why do we have you guys here for an EdTech Expo? What's new about moral courage that would fit into that?
Well, I mean, a lot of what we do is going to be online. So, and what's nice about that is it's available to everyone. And that's the beauty, right, of the ed tech and the ed world is, so the message of moral courage, you can go online to moralcourage.ed, or I'm sorry, -ed.org, and see all the things that we have. But most of it is a platform, and we mix and we match things. I mean, some of it is live, but still online. Some of it is self-paced so that you can take it as as you would like it. But what we do with moral courage is we give the teachers, the administrators, we give them the power to design the product. Because when you do that, you actually allow them to have some say-in, some buy-in. So instead of something that's like prefab, where it's just, you throw it out and teachers have to learn it and then teach it as it's been like packaged for them, this allows teachers the flexibility of the moral courage program through a lot of the kind of tech platforms, allows teachers that buy-in that really makes it stick then.
Right.
And so I think that's what makes it unique. One of the things that we move away from is that prefab, buy this curriculum, have your teachers just kind of give it word for word, as it's written. No, this is an actual opportunity for teachers to get on board, do part of it self-paced, do part of it, again, they get to choose how they apply moral courage and how they themselves digest moral courage. And so that's what makes it different than, say, a kind of a prepackaged curriculum that you buy online, or you buy from some,
right. So it's great. So it's a flexible blended learning solution that happens online. Which honestly, like, in terms of like professional development, like you don't see a lot of that. You don't see professional development that gives you the option on how to apply it. It's normally a very rigid structure, which is like, this is what you do. Here's step 1, 2, 3, 4. So I love that. And I love to hear about how it's empowered teachers. Say, like, for those watching, I know a little bit more about moral courage than the average person, because I'm actually an advisor for moral courage, because I like this method of being actually changed the way that I view the world. I mean, really, and the way that I interact with people. I was having a conversation over breakfast today where someone said to me, how did you get this balanced perspective on life? We were talking about critical race theory and all of these other sort of hot topic issues. And I was talking about the nuance that I see with these issues. And one of the things I said, 5 years ago, I did not have a healthy perspective on these things. But it's come through conversation and learning this content. So I want to ask you, like, what impact has moral courage had on you personally since knowing Irshad about the method? Now, obviously, like, feel free to go back and talk about what you were doing before that too, because you've been doing this work.
Yeah, I mean, no, moral, it's a daily process, Mike. I mean, it is something where, literally the first step is breathing, particularly when you're in a situation where maybe someone has said something, or you feel like you feel offended, if you will, right? You feel challenged. It's just breathing. And then it's learning to ask really important questions. And again, not gotcha questions. And that's hard. That is hard in this day and age. It's hard when you only have, particularly with social media, you only have 280 characters. I mean, that's not room for a conversation. But the other thing that makes it hard is we're in a world now of political sectarianism, if you will. So everything has become either or. And what we try to teach is both and, but either or is easy. Either or is easy. Our brains get lazy. It's easy to be a part of a tribe. When we get challenged, it's easy to retreat to that. So part of the courage, part of moral courage, is to have that courage to break out of that bubble, of that safe space where you hear what you want to hear all the time. And so it's a constant practice. And I've been working on that. One of the things that I was doing before I met Irshad was getting people together to tell their stories, people who thought people on different sides of the political aisle. That's one of the things that I did, because I felt like if you knew why that person had a story, if you knew where they came from, then you could develop empathy. And so a lot of what we do in moral courage is not, we don't like the word training. It's not moral courage training. A lot of it is storytelling, but that involves, again, the listening. And if you're hearing, then you're not fearing, right? And so that's where I kind of really dovetailed with what Irshad is doing, because I felt that we weren't listening to other people's stories, and that there would be that empathy, and there'd be that understanding, and there'd be that true diversity if we had the back end. But things are, we live in a fast-paced world, and that's not always possible. But here's something I want to say, though. This is why it's so important that we do this for our kids.
That's my next question.
Okay, I'll tell you, it is so much harder to break a habit than it is to create a habit.
Yes.
So right now, as adults, learning moral courage is a constant. I mean, every day I'm like, oh, I could have done that better. Oh, I didn't breathe. I mean, literally as simple as I didn't breathe first. Oh, I asked that, nasty, like, I can't believe you're thinking like that, versus, hey, why do you think like that? Which allows people to tell a story. This is what we're dealing with as adults. And it's all possible to change. But if you bake that in to a system with kids where they are taught to be curious, where they are taught to speak in a way that is non-judgmental, but yet still perhaps offensive. I mean, it's okay to be even offensive. We are teaching kids not to be offensive, whereas we might want to start teaching them how not to be offended. You know, and if we bake that into the system now, I think that we are looking at a future, at a generation. I mean, there are so many problems, Mike, that our world is facing. Climate change, AI. I mean, we are moving at a pace that is just, it's mind-blowing. And if our kids can't learn to be uncomfortable and can't learn to sit in their discomfort, then these massive world problems that we have are not going to get solved. Because it will always be right, left, black, white, whatever it is. The only way for us to solve is for us to teach our kids how to have these conversations. And how to be uncomfortable. And that takes courage.
Yeah, it does. That's awesome. I mean, it's amazing that you got to the last question before I did. Seriously. And I love that.